Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Today it's a beautiful, breezy, warm day in paradise and I have some information for you. Grenada. In this video I will explain to you how Grenada has led the way in Africa and Caribbean unity from way back in the 1970s, my friends. And the Member of Parliament, the Honorable Peter David, representative for St. George, Grenada, he explained how Grenada has led the way and that he supports the unification between Africa and the Caribbean and the Afro-Caribbean conference that was held in Grenada several days ago, my friends. I have a little audio clip for you of Peter David explaining how Grenada has led the way in the unification of Africa and the Caribbean. Have a listen.
Caribbean Trade and Investment. I recently attended the 4th Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum here in Grenada. Previous conferences were held in Barbados, Guyana, and the Bahamas. But this was Grenada's first time hosting. Grenada has deep historical ties with Africa. Between 1979 and 1983, during the height of the South African anti-apartheid struggle, we welcomed African Presidents Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia and Samora Machel of Mozambique. In fact, during the period 1979 to 1983, several leading members of the ANC, including former South African President Thabo Mbeki, traveled on Grenadian passports given to them by the government of Grenada, led by Maurice Bishop. Having been denied South African passports, they were unable to travel. Grenada was among the very first Caribbean countries to ever host sitting African heads of state. We showed early leadership in Africa-Caribbean relations. When I was foreign minister, I championed policies to engage Africa. I made contacts that connected trade, culture, economics, and tourism. These relationships are more crucial now than ever. The ACTIF conference saw some concrete outcomes. There was endorsement for an African-Caribbean free trade agreement that should remove tariffs on our exports. There are commitments for direct air and maritime links, new flight routes and shipping connections. Afro-Exim Bank announced SME development support that local businesses can access. They're working on eliminating visa restrictions, and it was reported that there's a $250 million hospital commitment. Afro-Exim will co-finance the government's recently announced tertiary hospital project with Mount Sinai as part of the Hopevale Medical City. The conference was well attended by Caribbean officials from around the region, along with other dignitaries. It was encouraging to see so many Grenadian businessmen and women represented, from farmers and fishermen to financial and insurance sectors. The two-day conference undoubtedly yielded economic benefits for Grenada. But we eagerly await the implementation. When do these agreements get implemented? When do the new flight routes start? When will our farmers actually access African markets? It's good to see the Caribbean working together on this. I've been advocating for Africa engagement for years, but we need to measure outcomes. First, we acknowledge that these partnerships have potential. Then, we look for concrete timelines and transparent reporting. Finally, we work together to turn conferences into real opportunities for Grenadian families, because good intentions don't pay bills or create jobs.
That was the Honorable Peter David, and it's like music to my ears what he would have said. I fully agree with everything that the Member of Parliament for St. George in Grenada would have said. He's a former foreign minister, and he said that he championed the cause between Africa and the Caribbean for many years, even when he was foreign minister This shows that he is very serious about Africa and the Caribbean unity, and anybody that is serious about the unification of Africa and the Caribbean will get my fullest support, because this is something I passionately support. This is the reason why I started this channel. The mission of my channel is to bridge the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora, because we are one people separated by a brutal transatlantic slave trade and colonialism. But we're coming back together as one. And every day I aim to release videos reacting to breaking news around Africa and the Caribbean that affect our people, my friends. What the Member of Parliament, Peter David, said, I didn't know. Some of what he said, I didn't know. I didn't know that Grenada had such a special relationship with South Africa. He said when former South African president, I think it was Mbeki, during apartheid, the members of the ANC, which is the ruling party in South Africa, right now they're in a unity government with the Democratic Alliance in South Africa. And during the apartheid time, when the ANC party was in opposition, the government, the white European government, the illegal white European government, they were never elected to office. They were just appointed to run the affairs of South Africa. The first election ever in South Africa was 1992. But back to the story at hand. During that time in apartheid, members of parliament, not members of parliament, members of the ANC party were not considered citizens. They were not even given a passport for South Africa, so they could not travel. And it was Grenada who facilitated some of these officials from the ANC to function by issuing them a Grenadian passport for free. And they were able to move around. I'm sure some of their family members right now still benefit from the citizenship from Grenada. And definitely Grenada should use this as a talking point to go into South Africa and establish proper relations with South Africa. Try to get direct flights from South Africa. There's lots of planes in South Africa. Try to get direct flights from there, because now that the ANC is in government, they should do more to bridge the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. Other African countries also issued passports to the ANC. Many Caribbean nations could not issue passports because by that time, during the 70s, they were still under colonial rule. Britain was still in charge. They would have not gotten their independence as yet. But Grenada issued passports to ANC officials. That I didn't know, my friends. So the history of Grenada championing the cause for African and Caribbean unity is well documented, and it is long standing, my friends, because the current Prime Minister right now, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, somebody corrected me on my last video. I called the Prime Minister of Grenada Mitchum. It is Michel. The Honorable Deacon Mitchell. And he is continuing the cause of African and Caribbean unity. Very intelligent young man and great leader you have there in Grenada. You must understand as well, not all leaders champion the cause between Africa and the Caribbean. So you have a great leader in Grenada right now who is pushing this cause. And what Member of Parliament Peter Davis said is that they would have talked about direct flights, direct trade, agriculture, education, but what is needed is concrete timelines. Yes, we need concrete timelines. Like, for example, by December 2025, we should have the first direct flight from Africa to the Caribbean being established. It is not hard for CARICOM and the African Union to establish a permanent direct flight. Let's make this happen, my friends. Let's put timeline in place. Let's not just say we want it. You have to put a timeline in place, a deadline for it to happen. And then CARICOM and the African Union will invest in the direct flights. We can get a loan from the Afri-Exim Bank, and the governments, the African Union and CARICOM, can lead this charge. I prefer if CARICOM and the African Union together as a body lead this direct flight between Africa and the Caribbean rather than a private company. Well, we welcome private companies as well, but I don't want there to be a situation where we are waiting on a private company to invest. The government must lead the charge, and then others will follow. Let me know what you think about this topic. The mission of my channel is to bring our people together worldwide, bridging the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. If you're watching for the first time, please consider subscribing to my channel. Like the video, share it with all your friends and family, and let me know your thoughts and opinion on what you think about this history lesson of Grenada leading the way in bridging the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora. This started way back in the 60s, 70s, and to today they are continuing the good work that they started, and many other Caribbean islands are waking up as well and leading the way as well, and I'm very proud of this. But we need to have deadlines, concrete timelines, my friends. You can also join my channel. Yes, you can become a channel member and help to support this very worthy journey. How do you become a channel member? Well, the link is in this description box. Click the link and join the channel and sign up to become a channel member. You will see the description where you can join the channel. Just click that link and join the channel. I also have a travel channel. The link is in this description box as well. Just a few days ago I did a travel video walking through the village and showing my audience of how you can live for free in the Caribbean. Lots of fruits all around. Tea leaves I pick every day, all for free. And that is the life we cherish in the Caribbean. So you can go on over to that channel and like the video, subscribe to that channel, but make sure to subscribe to this channel first, my friends. In other news, I am a YouTube content creator, but I will be getting seriously involved in politics as well, and I will need your support because we will take control of the Caribbean. Pan-Africanists must take control of the Caribbean to lead it into the future. So I will be getting seriously involved in politics. I will be putting myself up to contest a seat in my homeland, my constituency, and I will need all of your support as we continue to bridge the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora, because we can no longer depend on the Western powers to rescue us. The Western powers now are deporting our people. They don't care about us. So we have to look after each other and bridge the gap. That is why I say bridge the gap, you know. Because once we go to Africa, bridge that gap, then we have the whole continent of Africa as our homeland and the Caribbean. Imagine having the Caribbean and the whole continent of Africa as your homeland. Africa is huge. The whole of the United States, Canada, Western Europe, China and India can fit inside of Africa with space remaining. That is how massive Africa is. I remember in 2024 when I traveled from Europe to Africa, from the UK, it took me 8 hours from the UK to Ethiopia via Kenya. I was on my way to Kenya. 2 hours from Ethiopia to Kenya. But during that 8 hours from the UK to Ethiopia, it took about 4 hours or less than 4 hours to fly over the whole of Europe to Egypt. And then once I landed in Egypt, it took like 4 to 5 hours just from Egypt to Ethiopia. That is how massive Africa is, my friends. And you can see from the plane Europe, you're flying over Europe in quick time. You can see the land mass in Europe, you're flying over France, Italy, Spain, you're going down the whole Mediterranean Sea. You fly over the whole of that until we reach Egypt in quick time. So it took quick time to reach from the UK to Egypt. It did that in about 3 hours, just over 3 hours. But for the remaining of the time, 4 to 5 hours from Egypt to Ethiopia. So look on your map, from Egypt to, just from Egypt to Ethiopia. All land I saw. Flying over Egypt, you saw all the oil tankers, the desert, the cities, beautiful cities. And then you went down to Ethiopia. Massive country as well. So all types of massive cities and so. So that is when I realized, wow, Africa is massive, flat land for hours. They're just flying over flat lands for hours and hours and hours. I couldn't believe it, my friends. That is the size of Mother Africa. So Africa and the Caribbean is our home. That is why I say let us bridge the gap between our homelands, my friends. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Beyond. This is Beyond Uncut, and I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. Much love and bye-bye.